you see the products, right? And you definitely see the ads. But behind every single company, there are these huge critical decisions happening that you never even hear about. And these choices, they're what determine if a business sinks or swims. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the two fundamental problems that every manager has to solve, whether they're running a corner coffee shop or a global tech giant.
And to really get what I mean, let's start with a headline that just made people's heads spin. AT&T, the phone and internet company, made the absolutely massive decision to buy Time Warner. We're talking the company behind HBO, CNN, and all those Warner Bros. Movies. The whole shebang.
And they didn't just buy it. The price tag was a staggering $85 billion. Now, you just don't make a decision that big based on what's happening today. That is a massive, all-in bet on what you think the future is going to look like.
And it really makes you ask, why? I mean, on the surface, it seems pretty weird, right? But this exact move is the perfect way to understand one of the most basic, most critical problems that every single business has to solve.
That problem is what economists call the make or buy decision. It is the first huge hurdle for any company, and it boils down to this. How do you get all the stuff you need to actually run your business? Think about it. Every company needs inputs. For a computer company, it's chips and processors. For a burger joint, it's ground beef and buns. And in AT&T's case, the input they desperately needed was TV shows and movies for their network. This leads every business to that one fundamental choice. Do we make this stuff ourselves, or do we buy it from somebody else? So to solve this problem of getting all your stuff, a manager basically has three tools in their toolbox, three main options. First up, there's the spot exchange. Honestly, the easiest way to think about this is just going to the store. You need printer paper, you go buy a ream of paper. That's it. There's no long-term relationship, no contract. You just buy what you need when you need it. It's incredibly simple and very flexible.
Your second option is to use a contract. Now, this is a lot more formal. It's a real legal agreement where you lock in a deal to buy a certain amount of something at a set price for a specific amount of time. So you lose some of that flexibility you get with the spot exchange, but what you gain is a ton of stability and predictability.
And then there's the third and most intense option, vertical integration. This is where you decide, you know what, forget buying it. We're just going to make the input ourselves. And boom, this is exactly what AT&T did. Instead of just buying content from studios, they went out and bought the entire studio. And as you can see, each of these choices is a classic trade-off. Using the open market gives you total flexibility, but it's super risky. Prices could shoot up or your supplier could just go out of business. Owning the supplier yourself, vertical integration, is the complete opposite. It kills your flexibility. I mean, you own the factory now, but it gives you maximum control and lowers your risk. And contracts, well, just as you'd expect, they're the middle ground. Medium flexibility, medium risk.
So you just look at the chart and pick the one that fits, right? Well, not quite. There's a hidden danger here, a nasty little problem that makes this choice way more difficult than it looks.
And that danger has a name. It's called the hold-up problem. You can think of this as the little gremlin hiding in the machinery of business, just waiting to wreck a perfectly good relationship. It's the key reason managers are so careful about this stuff.
The hold-up problem all starts with something called a specialized investment. Now, what's that? It's basically any money you spend on something that's only valuable inside of one specific business relationship. It's custom-built, it's tailor-made, and because of that, it locks you in.
And this can happen in all kinds of ways. Maybe you build your factory right next door to your suppliers, or you buy a super expensive custom-made machine that only produces a part for one client. It could even be training your team on a unique skill that nobody else needs. In any of these cases, the second you spend that money, you become vulnerable.
All right, let's make this crystal clear with a simple story. Let's imagine a little fast food joint called Jiffy Burger, and Jiffy Burger's entire business model depends on getting a huge shipment of fresh ground beef delivered every single Monday morning. No exceptions.
Now here's the brilliant part. The risk goes both ways. On Monday morning, the supplier can show up and say, hey, sorry, price just went up 20%. What's Jiffy Burger going to do? They're desperate. They have no other options. They're being held up. But Jiffy Burger can do it too. They can say, you know what? We'll only pay you half of what we agreed on. What's the supplier going to do with a truck full of fresh meat that's about to spoil? They're being held up. Both sides are locked in and both are completely vulnerable to the other.
And that constant threat, that feeling that the other side could take advantage of you at any moment, that is exactly why businesses don't just rely on a simple handshake.
It's why they write up ironclad contracts, or in extreme cases like AT&T, why they go all the way and just buy the other company to protect themselves from being held up.
So, managers spend all this time and energy building these complex strategies to deal with outsiders. But what happens once all that stuff is inside the company? Well, that's when a second and maybe even trickier problem shows up. How do you manage your own people?
This is what's known as the principal-agent problem. It sounds a little academic, but the idea is actually really simple. The principal is the owner of the company. The agent is the employee that the owner hires. The owner, the principal, wants what's best for the company. But how? How do you make sure your employee's always working hard for the company's goals and not just, their own?
Because at its core, there's just a natural conflict of interest here. The owner's goal is to maximize profit. That's the name of the game. But the employee, being human, their goal might be to maximize their own comfort. Maybe that means taking it a little easier when the boss isn't looking. It's not about being a bad person, it's just human nature.
So what do you do about it? I mean, you can't watch everyone all the time. The real solution, the clever solution, is to find ways to make the employee's goals and the owner's goals the exact same thing, to align their interests.
And managers have a whole playbook for this. You can offer profit sharing, so when the company does well, the employees get a direct cut. You can do revenue sharing, where they get a percentage of sales. You can pay piece rates, so they're paid for every single unit they produce. And yeah, you can always fall back on direct monitoring, like time clocks and spot checks, to make sure work is getting done.
But all of these tools, they're all designed to do one simple, incredibly powerful thing. They change the entire equation so that when an employee works hard to make the company successful, they are also making themselves more successful. Their personal goals and the company's goals become one and the same. So that really leaves us here. Every business is constantly fighting this battle on two fronts. There's the external challenge, managing your suppliers and partners without getting taken advantage of, and then there's the internal challenge, managing your own team to get the most out of them. Which makes you wonder, what do you think is the tougher puzzle to solve? Trusting your suppliers or trusting your own team?